You are listening to the Lucha Central Podcast Network. And now, Lucha Central Weekly.
Hello, and welcome to the Lucha Central Weekly Podcast. This is the podcast that lets you know all of the latest happening in the world of Lucha Libre. Each week, our team discusses news and events from this past week, as well as preview the week ahead, covering Mexico-based promotions and top independents, along with luchador-related news from throughout the United States. The Lucha Central Weekly Podcast is part of the Lucha Central Podcast Network on luchacentral.com. This podcast and others from the network are also available on all major podcast platforms, including iTunes, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Podbase, Speaker, and more. My name is Miranda Morales, and I'm one of the co-hosts of the Lucha Central Weekly Podcast. And let's bring in the rest of the team. Introducing first, he is the dashing one, Mr. Dusty Murphy. Dusty, hello.
Hey, Miranda, how's it going?
I am doing very, very well. Thank you very much. How are you today, sir?
I am fantastic.
Ah, that is wonderful, wonderful. And Speaking of the team, well, who is our third member?
Who?
It is the one and only Brendan Barr.
That's who.
Yeah, that's me.
Yeah.
How we doing today, guys?
Doing
great.
really, really well. Did not do any kind of candy overload from Valentine's Day, so I'm going to consider it a pretty good. I'm still not.
It's a win.
It's a win, because I could still be sick from all that candy, especially all the stuff that got put on sale right afterwards.
That's how I usually do Valentine's candy. I go the day after.
It's still good. It's still good. Just because it's half off doesn't mean it's still not good. But gentlemen, we had another packed week of Lucha Libre action in all of the major promotions, and a huge week in news. So we're just gonna go straight into it with the road back to shows with Brendan.
Yeah, this is as you guys are listening to the show, there's so much going on. So I apologize in advance. We might go a little long, but we will try and keep it moving fast pace. I'm going to start with Mexico City is still red, but they're going to go orange, and not really because they should, but because they need to. If that makes sense. The hospitals are down by 21%, so they can kind of justify this, but cases are still kind of high. There's a lot of things going on, but commerce needs to happen, and a major city that's reliant on tourism can't stay closed for an entire year, and they're coming up on that. So they're going back to orange. We're going to see how that plays out. When we were at orange before, AAA and CMLL were able to hold events with limited attendance, and other events were able to happen. Some were in regulation, some were not. And CMLL's already making announcements that they're, with that news on the horizon, they're hoping to have shows starting soon. So, this is, it's going to be a very interesting couple of weeks to keep an eye on. So by the time this goes live, Mexico City should be officially orange, but, kind of still red. So please, if you are working there, stay safe. And that leads right into another big story this week. Big Ovit, who is a wrestler we've talked about on this show several times. He's worked in promotions like IWRG, Zona. He was even in AAA at Guerrera de Titans when helping Big Mammy celebrate her Onapuestas win over Lady Maravilla. He's only 43 years old. He passed away. It was reported that it was due to COVID conditions. He was to fill this out. His name is Big Ovid. He was part of a group called Los Strippers Big. They were the guys that you see in suspenders and kind of either hot pants or tearaway pants that would dance alongside on the way to the matches. Generally have a good time. So kind of a big loss in the more direct sense to the community. Everybody seemed to think that he was a particularly fun individual. They said so many positive messages went out about how much they enjoyed working with him. My heart goes out to the family. I mean, that is just a terrible loss at 43. Like, just any of them are bad, but when you have somebody who still has so much that they can do, it's just kind of terrifying. And then in other news that was breaking just today, also unfortunately still COVID related, Conan apparently has gone to the hospital with kidney related issues to COVID. Dusty might have more clarification. I hear him wanting to jump in on this, but
yeah, that's my understanding, is that he has confirmed to a couple of outlets that he tested positive for COVID and was not doing well and was like really scared and went to the hospital, but now he's really on the upswing and he should probably be home as you're hearing this, like he was hopeful to be out today or tomorrow as we're recording, so.
That's the plan, yeah, which is why he finally was able to make a statement on it. It had been rumored in the early part of the morning, and then I don't know who all else confirmed it, but I got Hugo Savinovich made a tweet about it.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's where I got this from as well.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
And Lucha Blog retweeted a news source from Mexico that quoted Hugo. So, I mean, it's all kind of down to Hugo.
So kind of scary, but it sounds like the right things happen. And this is again my reminder: if you start to feel any symptoms and you've had a history of kidney issues or diabetes or any of that stuff, go to the hospital right away. Well, call them first, tell them you're coming, so that they can tell you where to go for the check-in, and then go right away. It's I mean, Conan's case here sounds like that made all the difference in the world. So, in other news that I was not able to find any reasonable follow-up on, there were some statements that I first read on Lucha Blog, but I couldn't find the supporting statements behind it, that AAA and CMLL have at this point laid off most of their staff. So this isn't wrestlers, this is the people that write the checks, the people that make things happen at the arenas and that sort of thing. It tracks. It would make sense at this point after so much time that they would have to make cutbacks. I hope that all of those were provisional cuts, and when they start going back to full swing, that the people that were let go are offered those positions back, because those are, as an indie person, those are vital positions. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. If you don't have somebody to take tickets and set up chairs and pick up the wrestlers at the airport, shows don't happen. And that's just on the small scale. So these big arenas, CMLL and AAA, need even more people. So and they need to know the job. So hopefully, like I say, if it is true, they all come back. Maybe it's more exaggerated than people are thinking, because everybody's kind of doom and gloom right now. Maybe they only cut back on some of those people too. So hopefully, that's the case, but that is the story. I'm hoping to follow up on it if I get more information. And then we have another interesting story. This one was super interesting to me because we had very recently just announced that Baby Love had signed with Chaos Wrestling. That was a nice little surprise for me, but it was fun. And then this week they released in a statement that they've come to an end with that arrangement. Nobody made a statement as to why that is happening. It didn't seem like it was particularly emotional. Like, it just seemed, it was very much we wish you the best in your future endeavors sort of post, which means that they probably just had to make some sort of cutbacks, but no real information was released. Again, as I get information, I hope to follow up on that. And then the big one, the giant granddaddy announcement that hopefully some of you have already seen, but we're going to go over quite a bit here. Expo Lucha has returned to the virtual format. They are going to be doing another virtual Expo Lucha March 20th, which is a Saturday, starting at 10 a.m. It's going to have a whole bunch of the stuff we saw last time. We're going to see more matches. All of these matches are promised by the poster to be matches that have never before been seen on free streaming. So those of us that spend a little bit of money to see things might have seen one or two of these matches, but for a lot of us, this is going to be totally new stuff, which is really exciting.
Some of us became aware of them through Lucha Loot too, which was one of Kevin's early ventures, which was really cool. So it's kind of a cool tie-in to all of that as well.
Absolutely. I am still hoping for the Lucha Loot to make its comeback in the next couple of years. But
oh, me too. I loved it.
So from the press release, I do want to mention that it is Masked Republic, Fangirl Consulting, and Brand Management that are putting the whole thing together. So I want to make sure they both get their right shout-outs. They do have the matches. What they've said in the press release is you have virtual seats to never before seen broadcast matches with legends, icons, and superstars from every major wrestling league and promotion. So they then go on to list AAA, CMLL, the WWF, AEW, Impact, Ring of Honor, MLW. I'm assuming that a lot of these were matches before people were in, say, the WWE, because it would be very hard for Expo Lucha to show WWE matches right now. The Peacock might come after us. Also on the poster is Lucha Time. We had that announcement in the mid part of last year that Lucha Time and Masked Republic were coming to a deal, as well as Lucha Time wanting to expand here into America. So maybe this is their first. They haven't announced anything, but I noticed the logo on the poster. So stay tuned. Then they're also saying they'll have live virtual autograph signings. We will give you more details on that as it goes. Dusty has some theories because he's done stuff like this before, but they haven't confirmed that.
Yeah.
They're going to have Mats and Mayhem will have an interview with Vampiro this time, kind of hot on the heels of that fantastic Conan interview that we got last time.
Yes.
We had our own interview with Vampiro, so I'm very excited to hear how things go with Mats and Mayhem. That should be a very interesting show. Also, Denise Salcedo is going to be interviewing Cassandro. I am going to be taking so many notes on this.
Yeah, that's exciting.
That's going to be a fantastic interview.
They will probably be talking about Cassandra's book, Cassandra's movie, I mean, all kinds of things. So hopefully we get that. We'll have the Ring of Love dating game. I don't know anything. It just says watch the Luchador Bachelors compete for a date with a lovely bachelorette as they team and as they learn all is fair in love and lucha. I don't know.
No, that would be very interesting.
This is definitely one of the most intriguing ones. And then they want to talk about Hot Topic. Hot Topic merchandise is going to be on display throughout the whole show, as well as other things, obviously, like Boss Fight Studios and other sponsors from the last Expo Lucha will be showing up, but there will be a whole Hot Topic like panel talking about how they pick these things, how the relationship is going with Masked Republic. Should be, for those of us that are interested in that, T-shirt guys, and it's just is a name for a reason. This is going to be fantastic. If you are not super about the merch, I will probably have a breakdown for you at a later point. Possibly we're talking about maybe doing another after show. So, if that's the time that you need to maybe take a break to let your brain relax a little bit, I might have your back on this one. So that's Expo Lucha. That's the big news. I did want to sneak in because there is a lot of news that Thunder Rosa has been spending all week posting links to charity sites for dealing with the current situation going on in Texas.
Mm-hmm.
So if you are interested as a Lucha fan in supporting people in Texas who are definitely having a super hard time right now, she's got your back. She's got all kinds of links for you guys to go check out. And I definitely have taken the time to donate to a couple myself, but I wanted to spread the word on that because it's kind of a big deal.
Yes, check out Thunder Rosa's social media. Lots of people have been posting about ways to assist and help out in the current situation as far as the all of the challenges with the weather and how it's causing so many issues with people's electricity going out, water supply running short, all of that. So we hope everyone in Texas is staying safe and doing well. And please, if you can, go ahead and find an organization to donate to. Yes. And next, Brendan, a pretty healthy indie roundup this week.
Yeah. Again, like I said at the top of the show, we have a lot of news coming around, and the indie roundup has more than a few things. So, the first off, as covered on Lucha Central earlier in the week, there was the Pele Pro Wrestling live show, and the main event was Sam Adonis defending his title against Legends of Lucha Libre Psycho Clown. So, I'm going to just read from the coverage here that was written for us here. It was a bit of a long match that saw Sam Adonis give Psycho Clown a spear into a door. Fantastic. And then Psycho Clown gave him a Spanish fly through a board set up between two chairs in the ring. Yeah, I mean, just crazy.
Yeah, it sounds amazing.
Just crazy. Like, I'm reading this and I'm just, like, I'm losing track of things because I'm picturing how it's going. So, yeah, it sounds great. Sam Adonis does retain by the headline, even though it sounds like he took all of the big hits through doors and through chairs and all of that other stuff that Psycho Clown loves to do. It sounds like he was able to somehow hold on to the win. And this was in Arlington, Texas at the Legal Draft Beer Company.
Yes, if anyone follows Wrestling with Unicorns on social media, Martin was there, and so there are some clips available on Wrestling with Unicorns, so you could check them out, and also was available on Fight TV and the Title Match Network. So if you'd like to watch that match and others from that event, you can do that through Wrestling with Unicorns or Fight TV or Title Match Network.
I missed the Fight TV announcement. I was just watching it through Wrestling with Unicorns, which is still a very fine experience.
Yes. Love Wrestling with Unicorns. I know they just celebrated 5 years, so congratulations to them. I mean, it's a great duo team that goes to events all over the U.S. and takes clips and shows them on social media. And so, yes, that clip of going through that table is posted by Wrestling with Unicorns. Great.
along with other clips from a lot of shows, but this is how I got my footage of this show, and then we did cover it on Lucha Central's webpage, which is where I got the write-up from. So thank you to the writers over at the webpage, and please do check out our news over there all the time. They update a little more often than once a week, which is us. We had the Lucha Meme show that I've been threatening to tell you about finally popped back around on IWTV. It is now available on demand on IWTV. It is the War of Nations, and I didn't write down the proper Spanish for it. It was in Spanish. Guerrera de Naciones, I believe.
Mm-hmm. That sounds about right. Guerrero de Naciones.
There we go. So it was set up as kind of with only a couple of entertainment matches in the middle. It was an English performer or American performer and a Mexican performer in each of these matches. I did, on my view, miss the first match, so I came in with Gino Medina against Aaron Martin. We've been talking about Gino Medina on this. This was a solid match for him. He did come out with a win on top of this. Aaron Martin seemed like he put up a reasonable offense, but the biggest thing on this was the crowd was not super enthused at this point. It felt like there was a little more fighting to get crowd attention. So I don't feel that Gino reached the heights that he could have if people really were. And I mean, also Gina Medina's kind of better as a heel, and this was a very pro Mexico crowd, so maybe a little hard there too. But speaking of amazing heels, Tony Deppen versus Ricky Marvin was the next match, and Tony Deppen started this match by trying to pick a fight with a 10-year-old. So
good Rudo material right there.
Absolutely. And the crowd was totally into it. Ricky Marvin and Tony had a nice combination of technical holds and brawling. It started off a little more technical and devolved into brawling pretty quick because Tony Deppen was really playing up the Rudo thing. It was a fantastic match. Tony Deppen got the win on that one, trying to keep things a little bit exciting with the Mexico versus America sort of balance here. Then you had Black Taurus and Laredo Kid in a match which was not part of their scorekeeping system. Also, the announcer seemed to not be speaking during this one, which is fine for me. If you're watching this and you need the announcer to keep you going, just keep in mind that Black Taurus was probably the heel in this, and Laredo Kid was probably the Technico, and just go with that because there's no announcing, just a lot of static. This one moved at a really fast pace. I felt that kind of worked as a disadvantage to the match, where you didn't get to see as much Black Taurus being big and strong and slowing things down as might have made it good. But Laredo Kid came off the top rope with a splash for a big win. It was still a very exciting match. And we had Wheeler Yuta and Extreme Tiger. Just real quick on that one. So you had a lot of the American side was pure wrestlers, and then the Mexico side was luchadors. Extreme Tiger, as his name implies, is more of a flyer than he is a technical wrestler, but he is like most luchadors, very adept at the technical wrestling, so they started off that way, and then things went crazy. Extreme Tiger started flying off of anything that wasn't nailed down, and some things that were. And Extreme Tiger did get the win off of the top rope as well. Very fun match. Good clash of style sort of storyline. Wheeler Yuta is a young man that is on the upswing. He had a very good match on ROH this week, so definitely keep an eye out for that. We will probably be talking about him more on this show. And then the main event was Mecha Wolf and Fred Yehai versus Low Rider and Blue Demon Jr. This was a 3 falls match. As you might guess from the setup here, Low Rider and Blue Demon were overwhelming crowd favorites, so those of you who have seen Blue Demon Jr.'s kind of technico persona as opposed to his as opposed to his recent AAA work where he's very clearly a little more rudo. He's doing more technical moves. He's doing handstands. He's reversing holds and trying to go toe to toe with people on a technical standpoint. It worked very well. There was the first fall. He had one half of the other team in his traditional variation of the Scorpion Deathlock, while Yehai was getting the pin, so it was kind of a double fall, but only visually. Then the second fall, because Blue Demon is a legend and he was working heel or he was working Technico, the whole fall was basically both of the other team trying to take his mask off, and everybody was there for it. I was there for it. I was very excited by this whole thing, and they finally were able to beat down a lowrider who kept trying to save him from getting Blue Demon from getting his mask taken off, and get the pinfall on that. And then the third fall, the baby faces rallied, and Blue Demon hit a nice looking butterfly bomb and got the 1, 2, 3. It was kind of a nice traditional match for kind of getting fans excited, and it worked for me on that. There are going to be some people who will probably rightly point out that Blue Demon Jr. doesn't work as well as a Technico anymore because he's a little slower and a little a little off step. But I didn't care. I was into it. So, if you want to be fussy and you want to have a perfect match, then you have to go back in time. But I was enjoying the moment of feeling back in time by watching this. So that was our main event for the Lucha Meme Show. Like I say, that is available on the IWTV on demand. They also, if you are a regular subscriber, are still showing it now and again on their their general live streaming. So please feel free to catch that. We also had a submission this week from Manny Pecador Hernandez for Promoción 915-656, which we've talked about a couple times on this show. They are a joint Mexican-American promotion. This was being done in Odessa, Texas. And they had several matches. I will just give you a quick couple rundowns here. You had a match with Rhea Scorpion, Black Widow against and a person whose name I couldn't catch. So a young man from Odessa, probably. Rhea Scorpion, Black Widow against Tomo, Dark Fusion, and La Hiedra. As you might guess, that the La Hiedra got the win on this one. There's the story in this was a lot of the fun part, but I definitely think it's more fun to find it and watch it. It was definitely one of my favorite matches. Then you had Hijo del Impostor, Arrow, and VIP fighting VIP for a championship belt that I did not catch which championship it was. VIP was able to pull out a win when he committed a foul while the referee was distracted looking at a possibly injured person on the outside of the ring, and then covered him as the ref came back in and got the 1, 2, 3. And then the main event, or one of the main events, was Tejano and Black Taurus against Murder Clown and Psycho Clown. And if you are familiar with Psycho Clown working in front of children, this is a classic Psycho Clown in front of children match. And again, I actually have been on record a couple times talking about how I don't usually enjoy his matches, but because I could hear the children laughing at all of his gags and enjoying this and saying things like, kill the cow. I was really into it. I was having fun with this match. The predictions that most of the fans, the listeners here will know, Psycho Clown did wind up with the win. You saw a lot of the normal spots. You saw it starts with chanting in the beginning, and then the brawl breaks out, and the bad guys take over for a really long time, because that's how Psycho Clown likes to do his big comebacks. And the kids were eating it up, and then they made their comeback. There was a little back and forth, and then finally Psycho Clown hit I don't even remember what movie hit. There was no plunder in this match to speak of, other than a couple of chairs and Tejano's rope. And then so that was the Promozione 915656. There is another match that I've seen that we will be talking about later, where a AAA title was on the line, and we can talk about how this show was a little different, because it was supposed to be a AAA road show at one point, and they had to reshape the formatting on it. I do have a quick update. Also, Coastal Championship Wrestling put up another match featuring the Colognes this week, so I wanted to squeeze that in. They were, I'm going to just give away the ending now, tag team champions going into this match. They were attempting to defend against the South American Alliance of Ariel Levy and Vinicius, the Brazilian Giant. And there was a little bit of back and forth with the Colognes in this. Carlito and they're calling him Eddie, but we know it's Primo or Eddie. Eddie's, had a couple of moves where they hit each other with stuff instead of hitting the opponents, and that kind of led to the team collapsing and the other team winning. So a great match. Coastal Championship Wrestling keeps putting up great lucha content. It looks like they're going to have more. And I'm running low on time, so I will just roll the Lucha Time update that I've got this week into the Lucha Time update I've got for next week, and we can move on to the next segment here. So thank you.
Yes. Thank you to those who submitted to Brendan. Again, you can do that on social media. We'll give our information out at the end of the show, but you can also just find Brendan Barr on social media. So if you are an independent Lucha Libre promotion who'd like to have a match or a show featured on a future episode of the Lucha Central Weekly podcast Indie Roundup, make sure you reach out to Brendan. And again, preface, it has to be a safe show. Brendan is the ultimate authority on this, so I am just the relayer of this message. This is not, guaranteeing that your promotion or match will be mentioned. It has to go through all of the safeguards that Brendan sets forth.
It's true.
So,
it's true.
It's true.
It's true. You, IWRG.
Yeah. Why do you think we don't talk about IWRG anymore?
All right.
Anyways, but next we're going to kick it off to Denise Salcedo, who brings us this week's Lucha Central.
Why should you visit thechairshot.com? Thechairshot.com is your home for hard-hitting reviews, news, opinion, and analysis with attitude. Why? Because you're smarter than the average fan. Thechairshot.com. Always use your head.
Hey everyone, it's Denise Salcedo here in Lucha Central with a reminder of where and when to catch all of the great network content this week. Get the full lineup and listen to all of our shows in the podcast network section of luchacentral.com. On Tuesdays, Mats, and Mayhem takes you inside the world of Lucha Underground as they take you weekly through the series with the benefit of hindsight and the benefit of special guests from the groundbreaking series. Check out the premiere video stream every Tuesday at 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern on the Lucha Central YouTube channel and at luchacentral.com. Then listen to it on your favorite podcast platform every Wednesday. Tuesday nights live, it's Wrestle Boss, where Fabi Chulo talks MMA and pro wrestling with special guests and listener call-ins. Visit WrestleBossLive.com Tuesday nights at 7 p.m. Pacific to listen live or call in with questions or download the show on podcast platforms on Wednesdays. Wednesday nights live on Facebook, it's Spanish show La Mesa de los Márgaros, giving you both the news and the chisme from around the lucha world. Special guests and a whole lot of fun make it one of the most talked about shows in Mexico. Thursdays, it's straight out of the bodega with Papo Esco and PWR promoter Gabriel Ramirez, as they have guests from throughout the wrestling world pull up to give an inside look into their careers. From indie standouts to television superstars, each week brings a new name and perspective. On Friday, it's your double dose of Lucha Central Weekly podcast, one in English y el otro en español. Lucha Central Weekly is where you'll find all the top stories of the week, both inside and out of the ring from Mexico and anywhere luchadores are in action across the globe. Be sure to subscribe and follow all your favorite Lucha Central Network series on your favorite podcast platforms, either by their own series name or subscribe to the Lucha Central Podcast Network show pages to get all of the shows in one easy feed. And please consider giving a rating to help more fans find the shows that you love. For now, this is Denise Salcedo signing off from Lucha Central Central. Have a great week.
Lucha-Masks.com by Pro Wrestling Revolution, bringing you, in partnership with Mask Republic, the Lucha Brothers, as well as Japanese legend Ultimo Dragon. Go to lucha-masks.com and fight Lucha Strong with masks from your favorite Lucha legends and Pro Wrestling Revolution luchadores. Stay safe in style and represent your favorite luchador. Get yours now at lucha-masks.com, powered by Pro Wrestling Revolution.
And as always, a huge thank you to Denise Salcedo, letting us know what's happening throughout the Lucha Central Podcast Network. Don't forget that you can find this podcast and the podcast from the Lucha Central Podcast Network on luchacentral.com and your favorite podcast streaming platforms. Up next, Dusty's going to be taking us through what happened this week on WWE.
Yeah, well, first up on Friday Night SmackDown, we were 4 for 4. Because what's SmackDown lately if one of the Mysterios doesn't get beaten by Baron Corbin? And on February 12th, we got Corbin and Sami Zayn defeating both Mysterios, Rey and Dominic, for spots in the Elimination Chamber match. And, I am still not a fan of this pairing. I can only presume that this is leading to them kind of rising up as underdogs. But do we really need to see Rey as an underdog at this point in his career?
No.
He's easily the best decorated luchador on American TV.
Yes.
And Baron Corbin, with his 0 world championships and exactly 1 title run with the U.S. championship, feels like more of the underdog despite his size. And so everything just feels like it doesn't make sense in this match at all for me, or this feud. And so I don't know. I don't know where they're going, but we'll see. Rey Mysterio's hinted it's leading to a boxing match at WrestleMania, but I don't know.
That seems like a terrible idea.
To me too.
It seems like a WWE idea, though. None of that surprises me.
Not at all. And Roddy Piper actually talks in his book about how they do that. They basically make you, kind of make a fist and not put your thumb in the glove. Yeah, they've got a way to make it work, but I'm still not a fan. Terrible.
No, I just story-wise, it sounds like a terrible idea. If it's, Baron Corbin is a bigger man than either of the Mysterios.
Golden Gloves champion.
And he's a Golden Gloves champion.
I mean, he's legit. And, you can't put him in a boxing match against Rey Mysterio.
No, especially Rey.
Yeah. Yeah, Dominic maybe because of the size, but Rey, the size differential, boxing is so much about
and reach and all of that, yeah. Oh.
This is not Mayweather Big Show, okay?
Yeah.
That worked because Mayweather actually knew how to box. Yes, and so I don't get it, but.
And the only other Lucha news we had from SmackDown was Kalisto showed up talking with Sasha backstage, but then later on Sunday he appeared with Sasha at the Daytona 500 before the race, where she waved the green flag. And so it's interesting. I notice his mask now matches her gear and kind of her overall theme with the blue and the gold. And so I wonder if this could be the beginning of maybe a Boss brand stable. So we'll have to keep an eye on Kalisto. Interesting things are happening. He called out Rey Mysterio last week, and said he wanted to take him on. So I think we're going to see some big steps for Kalisto very soon. And then we had Monday Night Raw, and we had Lucha House Party team with Riddle again, and they won. This was a really fun match. It was pretty much exactly what you'd expect when I tell you that Lucha House Party teamed with Matt Riddle against the Hurt Business. After some early issues with pacing and rhythm, they really got it together, and they were able to gain the momentum to beat the Hurt Business, with Riddle hitting the floating bro to get the pin. And after the match, as they were celebrating up the ramp, they were attacked by Bobby Lashley. According to reports, MVP is injured, and his speed in this match was a definite issue. But Lindsay Grand Metalik and Cedric Alexander, who was in the match, did a great job of keeping the match from being bland and kind of elevating it beyond what it was on paper. It was a really great match. And then we had Bad Bunny winning the 24/7 title. Backstage, after he was telling Mandy Rose about how he was going to appear on SNL this week, Sarah Schreiber comes up to interview him and Damian Priest, and in the background, Tozawa pinned R-Truth for the 24/7 title. He then kind of backed into Damian Priest, who hit him with a really strong knee, and then told Bad Bunny to cover him up for the pin, which led to Bad Bunny being our 24/7 champion, and now tons of speculation that Vince had him win specifically to get the belt on SNL. And given the future placement of WWE Network on the Peacock service and Vince's six decades of business history with NBC, I would have to agree that this is very likely. Bad Bunny sold $500,000 worth of merchandise already just through WWE Royal Rumble merchandise.
That's
insane. He is such a big deal. So you have got to check out SNL this week with Bad Bunny and host Reggae Jean Page. You'll probably see the title somewhere, if not some wrestlers. The WWE guys have a history of showing up. Every week they show a vintage SNL. Last week they showed one with The Rock when he was still The Rock, not Dwayne Johnson. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of interesting. They're a little bit of wrestling. Yeah, the very first one.
That was a best one. I just loved it how, Damian Priest did all the hard work and told him, dale, like, go for it. Yeah. Like, that is not one of the most Puerto Rican things I've seen. I don't know what is, but I loved it. And at first, I know we joked how, Bad Bunny at this point if the 24/7 title, made sense for anyone to have it at this point, it absolutely makes sense for him to have it. Someone who just recently had it that we joked about was Doug Flutie, who had it not too long ago. So, I mean, it's a great opportunity.
Is Doug Flutie bringing to the table? You know what I
mean?
Yeah,
exactly. So I think it'll be great. Hopefully we do see it, but if not too, I mean, again, every time Bad Bunny's on TV, it's bringing traction. And his social media now is a lot more WWE oriented. So now you have all of his followers now watching his stories, clips of him on Monday Night Raw, and the YouTube hits. So again, it seems to be a very lucrative deal. And it's also been, I think, a great introduction for Damian Priest. We actually see a little bit of personality in him. And that is really what you need on Monday Night Raw. He didn't need it in NXT, but when you make that transition from NXT to Raw or SmackDown, there has to be a bit of a change for that format. And I feel like he's been in a good place. You have more personality, but also showing his strength, as a competitor, but also getting to see kind of a different side of him. So I think it's also been extremely beneficial for Damian Priest.
I agree. This is excellent placement. We kind of touched on this last week too with Angel Garza. I hope that he gets to continue to be part of this, the whole bigger picture, because there so many eyes come with Bad Bunny. You have to check out his social media. You cannot imagine how popular Bad Bunny is. This is a big deal. And speaking of big deals, It was reported this week after much speculation that Taya Valkyrie has indeed signed with WWE. There hasn't been any comment from Taya as of recording time, and no confirmed info about whether she will be in NXT or the main roster, but she's also still the AAA Reina de Reinas champion, so that's an interesting wrinkle as well. And given her history with the belt and her kind of problems with Sexy Star and Vampiro, like, I don't know if she necessarily feels an obligation to drop it in ring. She hasn't been in AAA for a year now. And so it's interesting what could happen. There will be a figure coming out through Boss Fight Studios, and their collaboration with Master Public on the Fanaticos line looks incredible. So that's still happening. All of her stuff that was pending with Master Public is still around for now. If you want those T-shirts, you better get them now.
Yeah.
That kind of thing.
Yes, exactly.
like hurry up. And but yeah, so I mean, like, what do you guys think? Where do you think she's going to show up in WWE right now?
I mean,
reportedly she was backstage at NXT last week, but I haven't heard about this week.
I mean,
but...
I think a lot of the reports are saying NXT, that's where she's going to land. That is my particular preference and we've talked about this countless times, so I'm not going to go too much into it, but I feel like she has such a unique ability to showcase her talent as a wrestler in NXT more than the main roster. So I feel like that is a perfect landing place for her. And even if she spends a little bit of time there, fans can get reacquainted with her, and the WWE universe can get acquainted with her, and she can kind of do some tweaking to her character, because I don't know if we're going to see the Taya Valkyrie that we saw in Impact, or is it going to be more of the Valkyrie and some of kind of more of that edge that she had in AAA. Who knows this iteration of who we're going to see. So I feel like that some tweaking can happen in NXT, but I would just love to see her wrestle in NXT. I mean, her against Io Shirai, Mercedes Martinez, Ember Moon, Shotzi Blackheart, Dakota Kai, Candice LeRae, Raquel Gonzalez.
Thank you.
Yes. There's so many people within NXT right now that she could face and have fantastic, fantastic matches with.
So here's my more skeptical take on it. She's at NXT right now so that she can do some work with some of the trainers to get her more familiarized with the WWE style, and then they're going to put her on probably SmackDown.
Yeah. And that's not bad, though, too. I mean, she has a big personality, and I feel like, that would be great for her. If anyone can go to SmackDown right away, it's Taya.
Yeah, it's true.
And I would love to see that. I would love to see her against Sasha Banks. But, I think she goes to Raw because recently pregnant Lacey Evans kind of had to drop out. And this has kind of affected all their WrestleMania plans with Charlotte. And so it would be really easy to bring Taya up and then plug her into that spot.
That's true.
And you've got, a very beautiful blonde there. That's what Vince likes. And there she is, ready for the main event. She's main event ready. I think if anybody could step into that spot and go straight to WrestleMania in 2 months, that it is Taya.
Everybody that listens to this show knows that we all believe that Taya is that person.
Yes.
I don't know that Vince believes that Taya is that person. I just really,
no, that's a good question, though. When you think about it, has he? We don't know.
Yeah.
No idea what.
Yeah, or what has he seen of her?
Exactly.
If he has, what does he know?
Exactly.
He doesn't know her whole arc the way we do, and so it's different.
No. Right, and that's exactly why I say that. Like, he has almost definitely not seen the majority of the work she's done, because she's done it outside the United States and for promotions that Vince McMahon probably doesn't even know exist. So it's really interesting to see. We'll see what he wants to do with that, because, I agree. You're right. I think could be the person for the job, but if Vince comes to see her at NXT and just doesn't, backstage at NXT, I want to be careful with my words here, and doesn't think she's got it because he's old and crazy, I'm just going to say those words.
Fair enough.
Then we're not going to get it. And that's kind of why I'm more thinking SmackDown, because that's the kind of program they would plug somebody that they basically got for cynical reasons. They didn't want her to go somewhere else, especially with Morrison on the roster, and then just kind of use her there, or halfway use her there.
Yeah.
Maybe have.
And they do need a little bit more to beef up the women's division there, because really with Sasha and Bayley, that carried a lot of that division for over a year. Now you have Bianca Belair, and it seems very likely that she's going to challenge Sasha, but then you want to add somebody else into the mix so that whenever, that program is over, you have someone already pre-built in there. I mean, I think Carmella's done great, but I think adding somebody else into that division will really freshen it up and beef it up a little bit.
Yeah, and they have to that point, they have to look somewhat credible. And while Carmella did really good with the last feud, she is on the losing side of that. So the next person has to be someone other than Carmella further down the line. And that, you're right, Taya would be a great fit there.
Oh, yeah, that would be ideal for the main roster. And especially right now, they're not touring, so it wouldn't separate her and, John. That would be...
Nope.
Kind of different, which is kind of the WWE thing to do too, is to separate the couples on the shows. And unless you're Charlotte Flair or Seth Rollins. So
they like to pretend that they keep the couples together. Like they've said, their PR people have said, we like to keep the couples together, and then they don't really do it.
Well, yeah, so it depends, but yeah, they've kept some together, some they haven't, so.
Depends how much juice you have with Vince.
Yeah, AKA, hey, I ain't gonna hate on Charlotte. She has that much sway where she was able to stay on the same brand as Andrade, so.
Yeah, I admire that, though.
Awesome.
I don't know that there's ever been a woman that could put their foot down to Vince like that before, and so that's pretty incredible. It's exciting.
Probably only Linda.
Yeah.
That's true. Well, up next, Dusty, take us through this week in AEW, Dark and Dynamite.
Yeah, first up on Dark, we had a handful. This was a very quick Dark this week, thanks to the women's tournament. On Monday, they had the initial round of the Japanese end of the women's tournament, and so Dark was only an hour and 6 minutes long this week, which made it much more manageable to watch the whole thing, which was kind of a nice change for a break. And but first up, we had Bear Country versus Chaos Project, and this was just a showpiece for Bear Country. They looked fantastic, but despite their best, Luther and Serpentico just did not have Bear Country's number, and they lost just after the 6-minute mark in the match. Bear Country just looked great. They are on their way up. I can't wait to see what they do. And the next Lucha relevant match we had was Jurassic Express versus Baron Black and John Skyler. This might have been the shortest match in Dark history, and that's really saying something. Luchasaurus and Jungle Boy came in with something to prove, and they picked up the win in only 44 very quick seconds. And then next up, we had Brandon Cutler versus Mysterioso. This was Mysterioso's debut match in AEW. It's especially interesting and kind of exciting because he's a luchador, but he's also someone who's currently signed to New Japan. And so this is one of those New Japan crossovers that didn't really get a lot of attention like Kenta did or Finjuice and Impact. But he's still one of those guys. This was a really great physical match with a ton of solid back and forth between Cutler and Mysterioso before Cutler pulled off the win in 6 minutes and 30 seconds. And then in the main event, we had Fuego del Sol versus Nick Coromato. Fuego finally in the main event. He never gets the credit he deserves for how fearlessly he steps to all these giants week after week. He's never afraid. People have doubts about the tornado DDT, but I feel he knows.
I'm those people.
It has to be amazing. Look how much confidence he has every week. Like, Comoroto is a beast, and he wasn't afraid. Like, it's going to be good, because when he hits it, it's just, all the wheels are going to fall off. But it wasn't this week. Comoroto was too big for Fuego to persevere. He lost the match just after the 3 minute and 30 second mark. Fun match, though. Great match. like I say, he's the guy you love to see lose at this point.
Yeah,
You
I
know,
totally
like
love to see it. That's part of why I have no faith.
that would be quite the ending for it to go out with a whimper rather than a bang. So we'll see. But I hope that it's impressive. And then we had AEW Dynamite. And first up, we had Paige and Big Money Matt Hardy versus TH2. The show opened with this, like, immediately. It promised to be an exciting tag team matchup, but it was largely to further the story between Hangman Page and Big Money Matt Hardy. This just wasn't TH2's night. It started with TH2 going just all in on Page and Hardy before the match officially began, and then they were able... that Hangman Page was able to drive them back solo. Like, I don't know. It's hard to be aggressive when one guy can fight two of you back. But aside from that, like, aside from Page in general, nobody really had their rhythm in this match. There were a handful of small mistakes that really cost TH2 the match. Matt Hardy got the pin after a very sloppy twist of fate. It was just, not a great technical match. After the match, Page revealed he had not signed a management contract with Matt Hardy as he had suspected. He had switched it out for a money match contract, and this caused Matt Hardy to go bananas. And he offered TH2 $3,700 US to beat down Adam Page, and so they did. But then the Dark Order, including their new leader, -1, he has a nice new mask made by Mike Woody, customized, real cool.
So
showed
cool.
up to make the save and let Page know that they were there for him. It was a great match if you're a Hangman Page fan, but not so much if you're a TH2 fan.
Oh, I was very sad as a TH2 fan.
Yeah.
The Dark Order is just so cute, though. I can't help it.
Oh, I know.
I just want to squeeze it.
Oh, and like, he's got such a cool look, and in a weird way, like an evil kid leading a group of, like, muscly wrestlers. It's so cool and so genius. Like, it just fell into their lap, but they're lucky to have him.
I love that the announcers just keep putting him over as this really hard boss, too. Like,
yes.
Yeah.
So funny. Like, I love it.
I do,
I
too.
love it. Yeah,
It's-
but
yeah.
too bad for TH2, but man, if you're a Dark Order fan.
But yeah, if anybody had to get the spot there to shine, I'm glad it's them. So, perfect spot. And next up, we had the match everybody was excited for. There were prayer circles for this match. And Proud and Powerful versus the Young Bucks. This match had so much promise and delivered largely on it. At the beginning of the TV spot before the match, they showed Mama and Papa Young Buck ringside. Papa Buck was dressed in his finest Joe Exotic sparkly shirt. And then, and you know Chris Jericho was jealous because I saw the look in his eyes when he saw Papa Buck when the Inner Circle came
Not
out
happy.
to the ring. And so it was amazing, but it wasn't what it could have been. This match, like, what everybody had hoped for is that Proud and Powerful win the titles, then they go on and face Inner Circle at Revolution for the titles. Like, that is a great story. And Bucks versus Good Brothers don't really need the titles, and they could have gone after the Good Brothers titles. Like, I don't know, but that's not where it went. This was pretty good match up until the last couple of minutes, and then it just had a terrible ending with Nick Young Buck getting a real cheap cradle pin on Ortiz.
Oh,
I
can't stand it. I mean, let's
can't
just do a mini
either.
rant time because it was a really solid match.
It
And-
was so good.
And, you know,
Such a cheap ending.
and exactly the cheap ending. Now I understand that they had to set it up so that the Inner Circle could come out and attack the Young Bucks and stuff. But even then, it was more confusing because commentary then played up how the Good Brothers didn't come out to help the Young Bucks. So there's even dissension between that team. I just felt it was such a dumb way to end that match.
Absolutely.
Compared to how well the match was really put together and how, I mean, it was really a pair, like you had two pairs of brothers in there, for lack of a better term, and you can absolutely see that chemistry and everything that they did was so succinct, ran so smoothly.
Such
and
great tag team wrestling.
Yes.
They got me to bite a couple of times. Like, I seriously was sitting there, I bought the false finishes, like, at least fights where I was like, this is it, they're gonna win the championships. Oh.
Yeah, that roll-up it just really agitated me. And I felt like they still could have had more of a cleaner finish, a more definitive finish, and still do what they had done. But, like, the roll-up just seemed so out of place for me personally.
It really did. Yeah, to me too. Absolutely. I assumed that Inner Circle just ran out because they were disgusted and had to whoop some ass on the Young Bucks because of how disgusted they were with that finish. Like, that was disgusting.
So here's the thing about that. This is why it didn't make sense to me and why it felt out of place. Are the Bucks supposed to be liked or not liked right now? Because if there was
nobody knows,
right?
Yeah.
They don't even know.
They just want to be cool. That's all.
With that
I'm so tired of that. I'm just. Yeah.
With that finish, right, they're still in that weird gray area. Had they gotten a clean win, then the Inner Circle could have run out and jumped them, and that would have been defining. The Bucks are going to be liked going into this feud with the Inner Circle, right? Like, it would define it. Or had the Bucks given a Proud and Powerful a low blow and then the roll up, then they would have been definitively the guys that nobody wanted to see win the next match. But instead, they're still occupying that weird gray space, which is detracting from their matches.
Yes. Yeah. Proud and Powerful deserve better. They deserve better from this match. They deserve better from all this Inner Circle story that I feel like is just getting too convoluted now. You know, that match shows that they deserve a spotlight in the tag team division. They deserve to be a pillar of that tag team division.
Absolutely.
And they deserve, the opportunity to be tag team champions, which I still believe will happen one day.
I do too.
But
this was their first tag team title match in the entire history with the company. Their first.
In the whole, right. They spent like a year in the top 5 and never got a title match. Then they got knocked out when Jericho and MJF decided they wanted to be the contenders. So they got knocked out of the top 5, and then they came roaring back up, and they don't get the title opportunity. Like that. If you're a Proud and Powerful fan, it's gotta be just heartbreaking to watch them at AEW.
Frustrating is the word. Not heartbroken. Frustrating.
Absolutely.
All right, rant over.
Okay.
I got one coming.
No, this rant over, other rant to come on very soon.
Go ahead, Dusty, sorry.
No, and then in our next match, we had Lance Archer, Jon Moxley, and Rey Fenix versus Eddie Kingston, The Butcher, and The Blade. This was actually kind of an incredible match. It started out with a brawl between all 6 participants. It kind of settled down into a real match. There was an amazing spot where Archer walked on the top rope, like obviously Phoenix inspired. Ed was tangling with the Blade, and then Phoenix got on the top turnbuckle, walked a couple of steps on the rope, and jumped over 6'8" tall Archer to take out the Butcher. Rey Fenix was really just the star of this match. He was so creative and just effective at handling the 2 larger opponents at the same time with Butcher and Kingston. He had one of the best frog splashes I've seen in a while in this match. And just great work from Rey Fenix. Then after Moxley got the pin on Kingston, the Good Brothers ran out and they beat down Moxley as Kenny came out and announced that the title match at Revolution with Moxley will be an exploding barbed wire death match.
Yes.
I am actually really excited. If you couldn't tell by my giggles about Brendan's spot with the table, I love, I don't love death matches, but I love a well gimmicked death match, and nobody's gonna get hurt in AEW. Hopefully after the Matt Hardy thing, nobody's gonna get hurt. But I am so excited for this match. It's just
man,
the most technical of all death matches.
Exploding death matches in particular are some of the most fun that I'm not a big hardcore wrestling match fan, but FMW did 5 or 6 of those that were just so good and so, like, I had to watch them. And to this day, I still share the Hayabusa Onita match for that. It's one of my favorite matches of all time because it's just so ridiculous. But
that was exactly where my mind when they announced this.
You also bring up a good point. It's not a very traditional format to American audiences, especially on national television. No. So, I mean, I think that too can be a very unique element to AEW, where they're bringing in different types of matches from all over the world. Now, I think it's going to look different. It's going to be executed differently. But when you're thinking, I mean, that's something that no other national company does, and will do. And so, and that has been one of the things that AEW has been more forthcoming about, is their tendency to do more violent matches and understanding that there is an audience for that. So, and there's a story to it as well. So, I think it's an interesting decision, but I do think it's going, not going to be, it's going to look different. It's going to be kind of an American version. Mm-hmm. That's going to be on national TV version, which I don't know what that looks like, but I'm interested in finding out.
You don't have to. I don't know if you've watched a lot of these, Miranda, because they were kind of niche for a little bit, but you don't have to do a lot to it. The barbed wire barely caused blood. The majority of the blood that was in the matches that I watched was because FMW had this fixation with bringing martial arts weapons to the ring. And so they would cut each other open to get the blood going, but because it's barbed wire, you don't need to do. The barbed wire itself didn't cause a lot of blood. So, and the explosion were like comical. Like they would just shoot a ton of dust into the air and lights would flash in random places on the camera screen. So like you could do all of that and the networks won't even blink at the violence rating because it just looks. It looks sillier than most action stunts on TV shows this day.
Yeah.
So.
And speaking of Revolution, there's also going to be a 6-man ladder match for the number one contendership for the TNT title called the Face of the Revolution Ladder Match. And it will feature Cody versus Penta versus Scorpio Sky versus 3 unannounced wrestlers. And I'm thinking we could see Sammy Guevara surprise everybody and make a real impact here in a ladder match.
I hope that's what they do with him. Because now him splitting off from the inner circle hasn't given him any momentum yet. So it would be a good use of him.
And he left through the face tunnel when he left Inner Circle last week. So, I mean, like, and on Dark, he kept saying, I'm coming for the titles. I'm coming for the TNT title. So I think Sammy Guevara is one of the most logical for the next 3. But do you think another luchador? I mean, do you think Phoenix enters? Do you think
they're keeping Phoenix in the world title picture and the AAA title picture? So I mean, it's possible, but I feel like they're going to announce a big match with Phoenix on that card next week as well.
Oh, well. We'll just have to stay tuned and find out. AEW has Dark on Tuesday nights and Dynamite on Wednesday nights on TNT. So always something exciting.
Further evidence on that, is that every time he's in a match, he dominates Twitter. I don't know what it's like over on the other ones, but like,
you see a lot of Phoenix everywhere,
especially
lots
amongst
of clips. People that aren't necessarily Lucha fans. They'll be like, "Oh my God, look what I saw!"
And then, re-gifting of all the insane things he did. People who don't normally watch wrestling gifting him and then saying wrestling is better than your favorite thing. He needs to be in the bigger picture. He needs to be at the top of the card at this point, because that attention is going to bring attention to their big profile matches, in my opinion.
Well, the results for WWE and AEW can be found on luchacentral.com. So, of course, as you're listening to this, if you haven't watched this week's episodes, make sure to go to luchacentral.com for all of your results. Brendan, you're going to tell us a little bit about Master Republic.
So we were talking about get those Taya shirts while you can. Coincidentally, this week, Mass Republic announced a partnership with BoxLunch.com, and they put a bunch of shirts on there, including a Taya shirt. It's a great shirt. It's a fantastic shirt. If your only excuse before was you didn't want to give money to Hot Topic, go to Box Lunch. They're a nice little boutique style merchandise store. You just go in there and search Mass Republic. You can get Taya, Laredo Kid, Taurus, Selena de la Renta, Conan, Mass Republic itself, and the Ruda brand. Those are all things that I found just casually searching. So great place to go. To Dusty's point, the Taya shirt is fantastic. Mm-hmm. It probably will not be restocked, and to the best of my knowledge, it is exclusive to the Box Lunch site. So
yes, I have not seen it anywhere else. I didn't see it at Hot Topic, and it's definitely not on Pro Wrestling Tees.
Yeah, and they said some shirts or some styles were going to be exclusive to this. I just didn't get which ones were, and my detective work told me the Taya shirt was one of them.
Yeah.
So
my closet told me.
So BoxLunch.com is a great place to go get your Mass Republic merchandise.
And don't forget, of course, all of the other great places where you can find Mass Republic merchandise, including ProWrestlingTees.com, Lucha-Masks.com, of course, Hot Topic, Amazon, Running Press, and the Luchaverse.com. But yeah, this week's big topic is Box Lunch. You can find them too at your local malls, but of course you can find them online at BoxLunch.com. Up next, we have This Week in NXT. We had 2 events this week. Back on Sunday, the 14th, Valentine's Day, we had Vengeance Day. And 3, lucha-ish related matches. One is not really, but I like them anyways. We had the finals of the Dusty Tag Team Classics, both the men and the women's. Big news on the women's side. Dakota Kai and Raquel Gonzalez defeated Ember Moon and Shotzi Blackheart.
Yes!
I mean, was there any other way? Was there literally any other way this could have gone?
Well, the way the match was going, it did feel like either team could win. So.
It did, and a lot of that, I mean, Raquel Gonzalez started the match, but then when Kai tagged in, they really, both Ember Moon and Shotzi Blackheart, I thought did a great job of isolating Dakota Kai throughout the match because they knew that's where they could leverage, that opportunity. They knew if Raquel was going to be in the ring, she was going to consistently dominate. And we saw that even just through her strength. I mean, she, lifted Shotzi and rammed her into the chain link fence around, the Capitol Event Center, and that's typical. That's not now become a standard of Raquel Gonzalez, is to use the area around her as a weapon. But you're absolutely right. I think there was definitely some points because also the tag team dynamic between Ember Moon and Shotzi Blackheart has really, really grown to be very cohesive. Both of them are very fast. They utilize a lot of movement and submission in their work, and so I think you're absolutely, going back to what you're saying, absolutely right. There was definitely moments throughout the match, but that ending with, again, that single-handed power bomb, and Raquel and Dakota covering Ember Moon was kind of that moment of knowing they've arrived.
After launching Ember Moon off the ramp into the walls. Yeah. Yes.
I mean, it was definitely one where, again, with the growing tag team work with Ember and Shotzi and just knowing, too, how Dakota and Raquel have utilized their strengths, Raquel being able to launch Dakota Kai off the top rope. They've had really good rhythm as well. So it was very entertaining, but as we've said, not that we're playing favorites, though we kind of do here. It also just seemed like a very well-known fact that Dakota Kai and Raquel Gonzalez were going to win. We also had MSK defeating the Grizzled Young Vets to win the Dusty Rhodes Men's Tag Classic. And again, I continue to love MSK. I'm so happy that they found such a good rhythm in place in NXT, and it was a big deal, when they left Impact Wrestling to NXT. But it seems like WWE really sweetened the deal by saying, "You come here, you'll win the Dusty Tag Team Classic." And I feel like we're in this new age of the NXT Tag Team division. Mm-hmm. I see them winning the titles very much in the near future, and I think we'll get into another golden period of such great dynamic tag team wrestling. So I'm very excited for that. We also had Io Shirai in a triple threat match for the NXT Women's Championship against Toni Storm and Mercedes Martinez, and we had some classic, genius of the sky moments through that match. One where Io Shirai launched herself off of the scaffolding right down to Toni Storm and Mercedes Martinez as they were brawling outside of the ring. And then at the end, a beautiful moonsault from Io Shirai covering Mercedes Martinez to retain. So again, each woman brought her own aesthetic to the match, with Mercedes being that brawler, Toni Storm being more the technical wrestler, and Io Shirai with that hybrid style of Japanese and lucha libre. And so it made the match overall really great to watch. But Io Shirai, continues to be the standard in NXT women's wrestling. And so it's always great when you can kind of spice things up with a triple threat and with some new competitors, but it really seems like nobody can stop Io Shirai.
The only issue that I have is I want to see her in more singles matches with both those other ladies.
Yes, and I think it's a good point, too. Io's been, I think, in a lot more triple threat matches in her reign than a lot of other champions have. And so I do think, it's a good thing, but also, I think she does great in singles matches. But we've seen her a lot in multi-women matches throughout her reign, or even just, when not defending the title. I think it also then gives more time and opportunity for Toni Storm to kind of reestablish herself, and Mercedes Martinez to reestablish herself too. Absolutely. You got to kind of build them back up after both of them having an absence for quite some time. Mm-hmm. So that leads into this week's NXT. We started off with...
It just
gets better. So in reality, there wasn't a whole lot of Lucha Libre content. And you may say, but Miranda, wasn't there supposed to be this big match that happened between Santos Escobar and Karrion Kross that's been advertised? I'll get to that in a second.
It's fine. It's fine.
So we had Shotzi Blackheart and Ember Moon tagging again against Candice LeRae and Indy Hartwell. They've been going back and forth on this for quite some time. Again, Ember Moon and Shotzi Blackheart had really good dynamic and a good flow throughout this match. And really, I understand teaming Candice LeRae and Indy Hartwell. Indy is still very new, fairly green, a few spots that she missed. And really this was more of a way to set up the story with, the way with Austin Theory, who was kidnapped last week. Essentially there was some distraction, possibly with Dexter Lumis. We're not quite sure, but, Austin Theory disappearing, coming back, that created an opportunity for a distraction, and it left Indy Hartwell in the ring alone to get pinned by Ember Moon. So, again, it does seem like maybe long term they're going to continue with Shotzi and Ember being a tag team. But going back to what you just said, Brendan, I think Shotzi and Ember would also benefit from singles action for quite some time. So I think Shotzi was really on that trajectory herself as a singles competitor. So hopefully now that the Dusty Tag Team Classic is finished, we see her back in a singles role. Speaking of the Tag Team Classic, we had a standoff. Dakota Kai and Raquel Gonzalez were in the middle of the ring celebrating their win when the WWE Women's Tag Team Champion Shayna Baszler and Nia Jax came into the middle of the ring for a stare down. And I thought this was actually great because I loved it. all four of these women, have some history in NXT, and they address that too, with Shayna referencing, Dakota Kai being that scared little girl that broke her arm. Dakota saying, "No, I'm not." And by the way, Shayna, you ran away from NXT when you got beat by Rhea. And Raquel's like, "Oh, you mean the Rhea that I beat?" Yeah. It was just, I loved the interaction.
Yeah, it was
between
so
them.
good.
And it does look like in a few weeks we are going to see Dakota Kai and Raquel Gonzalez get their WWE Women's Tag Team Championship opportunity, and they're going to face Shayna Baszler and Nia Jax. And in a little bit of break the internet moment, we did have Raquel Gonzalez just giving a brutal burn
So
to
good.
Nia Jax about how she's going to take that boot from the Dusty Tag Team Classic trophy and shove it up Nia's hole. And if you don't know what we're talking about, Nia's hole, you literally have been under a rock, because Nia's hole has dominated most of WWE social media this week.
I thought they killed the meme, but then Raquel brought it back. So.
Raquel brought it back. And I loved how she incorporated, she's having some of that Spanish in her promo work that I know I want her to do more of, because I feel like it adds just a flair to it. It almost does feel like you have Raquel and Dakota now being the faces in this.
It was very much a face interview spot. That was because
it'll be very interesting to see how that changes in the long run. That do they turn face? Are they going to be viewed more as a face team now when they've been very dominantly a heel team for the past year?
If they win those belts, they absolutely are going to turn face. And the fact that they did this as a face interview is why I'm so excited. I mean, first off, I love that Raquel came out looking like a champ on the mic, which is always been kind of the gray area. They didn't let her do a lot of talking it's only been a year since NXT Portland.
So long.
Right? And look at how far both of those women have come since then. Raquel and Dakota Kai are just miles ahead of where they were. And Dakota Kai was already in a good spot that year ago, but I mean, she's just so good now. But they did that interview with the face energy, that it was both Nia and Mercedes
or Shayna.
Shayna, yeah, I do that sometimes. I was looking at the face and saying the wrong name. It's a terrible habit I have. Yeah, but we're both doing very heel spots. They were talking about how they like you mentioned, Shayna said, "You're the scared little girl whose arm I broke." And Nia was talking, was basically being mean girl arrogant the whole time, talking about how Dusty put her over and just trying to make that into a bad thing, which is crazy. But, and the responses to that, even the piped in crowd noises was giving us cheers. So I feel like that's where we're going. And that's why I'm super optimistic that they might even win this championship. That might be the vision for it.
We'll see that in a few weeks on NXT. However, I alluded to this earlier that it was advertised we were going to see NXT Cruiserweight Champion Santos Escobar face Karrion Kross this week. However, towards the beginning of the show, William Regal received a message from Santos Escobar who said, "I'm not coming this week. I'm not going to be there. This match is not going to happen." So William Regal got all William Regal on Santos and said, "This match will be happening next week. If you do not come, you will be suspended and you will be stripped of the NXT Cruiserweight Championship, period."
I do want to, because part of the reason that I really loved this spot was the language is a little different about that. Like, he says, "Karrion Kross, you think you're the big guy, you think you can push us around, and you know what I'm going to do about it? I'm going to go home." And that was right there, because it says so much about his character and what he's doing.
Amazing promo work by Santos. Continuously solid promos. I love it. I love it a lot.
It was the only way out, like, for me, because I was in the middle of him starting that and thinking, he's going to say that they're not going to do the match. But when he did that, when he's like, you know what I'm going to do about it? I'm going to go home. I'm like, oh, this is awesome. I no longer care that I'm not getting the match this week because you just stepped it up. I now want to see what's going to happen when it finally hits. Because,
and that's a really, really good point, is that it just elevates it to the next level. I mean, because now you're just toying with Karrion. Nobody toys with him. I was getting scared thinking about just the idea of someone toying with him. Like, that freaks me out because no one plays games with him. Nobody plays games with him. And Santos isn't very intentionally doing that. And so later in the night, we did have a promo with Karrion Kross and Scarlett. And Karrion just warned Santos that he was not going to survive their encounter, whether it happened next week. Pretty much something's going to happen next week. Whether Santos is in that ring or not, Karrion will find him. And so it really kind of ups the ante for their encounter next week or their match, whatever it's going to be. It also does kind of leave some wiggle room of what is it going to be like. Is it going to be a match? Is it going to be a beatdown? Is it going to be a swerve? What is going to happen? So yes, there's a little tinge of disappointment we didn't get it this week. However, I do appreciate a little bit of a build-up. And now it feels there's more tension. At first, when the story was starting, you wonder why are they beefing? What is the problem here? Now you can tell there's a problem.
Yeah, yes. You can feel there's a problem.
You can feel there's a problem. There's going to be a problem. if there isn't one already, there is going to be a problem. Whose problem that is, I'm not sure. But again, I mean, this is going to be such a great match. I hope they really treat it as a match and not just a beatdown. That is the only fear that I have, is that, Santos is used as an example and they don't leverage and utilize some of the history that they already have and the ability that both men have.
Yeah, that's my only concern, but because we're building to this a little more, I don't think that's what we're going to get. I think there will be a match. I mean, I'm fairly certain Karrion Killer Kross will come out on top, but I think Santos is going to look really good in this match, and I think it may be a cinematic style match, but this matchup, this encounter, I think is going to be, it will happen, and we'll see something good out of it.
Well, that's this week in NXT. Don't forget to check out luchacentral.com for your NXT results. But speaking of luchacentral.com, Dusty, why don't you take us through this week in Lucha Libre history?
Yeah, that's right. It's time for This Week in Lucha Libre History. Be sure to check in at luchacentral.com every single day for This Day in Lucha Libre History by Pep Carrera for information, birth dates, anniversaries, amazing videos, everything, all about Lucha Libre at luchacentral.com, your centralized place for all things Lucha Libre. This week I chose February the 20th, 2005, when Eddie Guerrero and Rey Mysterio won the Tag Team Championship after beating the Basham brothers, Danny Basham and Doug Basham, who weren't even really brothers, but I digress. They beat them at the 7th edition of No Way Out at the Mellon Arena in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And first off, like, the immediate thing for me was Rey Mysterio's 2005 theme. Like, I forgot what a banger it was. We're all used to the newer one, the Booyaka theme, but his original theme was so good.
I liked it so much better.
And they got they also, Rey and Eddie got individual entrances. Rey's you kind of know, but Eddie came out to the ring in a really nice lowrider, looked like a 64 Impala maybe, and just so cool. And he was there to replace the injured Rob Van Dam and to help out his friend Rey Mysterio. And so it was just kind of by chance they got paired together, and it was so good. This was a solid tag team match that was able to utilize nearly 20 minutes of time. First match of the night. That's pretty incredible for where Rey Mysterio was in WWE in 2005. And it was a great story. The story was that the heels, the Bashams, were working over Mysterio for most of it. Eddie got the hot tag, and the finish was amazing. For the entire match, Ray did not want Eddie to cheat, because that's what Eddie was accustomed to do. But then when he saw the Bashams wanted to cheat, Mysterio figured, what the hell, it's okay. And so he let Eddie cheat. Eddie grabbed the belt, hit one of the Bashams in the face, and laid down, tossed the belt out of the ring like a frisbee, and got the pin, and they became tag team champs. It was amazing. The ref saw nothing. Such a cool, unique finish. Like, I remember this match, but I didn't remember how cool and unique and special it was, and I loved everything about it. Obviously, it took place in February 2005, was a big year for Eddie Guerrero and Rey Mysterio.
Yeah.
And so this is exciting to see where it all started.
That finish is imitated to this day, all throughout Lucha. So
it's hard to remember how unique it was at the time.
Yeah.
I mean, that was revolutionary. And that was one of those things Eddie had to have come up with, because it was so perfectly and effortlessly Eddie Guerrero.
Yeah.
Like when you see it, as soon as I saw it, I was like, it was like a greatest hits, the whole match. I just loved it. And so good.
The match
recommend it to everybody. It's on YouTube. Yeah.
Yeah, it's great. The match had one extra dimension for me because of the whole Eddie, Ray not wanting him to cheat. I was expecting Eddie was going to turn on Ray through the match, through the whole time I was watching this. So I was like rooting for Ray, but also terrified for Ray the first time I watched this. Such a good match when you go into it that perspective, because if you knew all the history those two had, you were just waiting for him to just like tear the mask off Rey Mysterio and walk away.
Yeah. I mean, this was an incredible match. I loved everything about it. It's hard to remember, and Rey Mysterio's pants. He had the baggier pants, and I was like, oh yeah, that's when he started wearing those pants. I remember. And so it was kind of fun to have that time capsule moment and relive the whole thing again. It just, like I say, it was like a greatest hits. And
Yeah, no, I agree. I'm sorry. I keep just getting excited and blurting.
No, it's an incredible match. Everybody should check it out. Truly incredible. What did you pick this week, Brendan?
So I went with February. This week, I chose February 16th, 2007, when Los Perros del Mal won the CMLL World Trios Championship after beating Los Guerreros de Atlantida. So that's Perros del Mal, consisting of Lucha Libre superstar Hijo del Perro Aguayo, Hector Garza, and Mr. Aguila. And they were up against the Ultimo Guerrero, Atlantis, and Tarzan Boy, the Toscano version, who worked a little more often out of Reno, Mexico. It's just I heard Dusty even saying, wow, that was my reaction when I saw this match existed. Like, you're getting 6 amazing, personalities in Lucha Libre. In its own way, it's also kind of a time capsule of a period slightly older than the 2000 date that we've got here, because they were all kind of well-established figures at this time, but you're getting to see kind of how they looked in their peak, like in the future or in the past, depending on which person it was. And you can see how, you can see so much of the Lucha Libre history of 2 generations kind of flowing through this. It's amazing stuff. Ultimo Guerrero is doing Ultimo Guerrero things before all of his matches felt predictable. You have Hijo del Perro Aguayo and Hector Garza. I mean, those two together, just magical. It's also on YouTube and on the Lucha Central YouTube page. So, do go check it out. Miranda, what did you find this week?
In a very similar tone to what Dusty picked, I picked February 15th, 2004, and this is an Eddie Guerrero match, but this is definitely one of the career highlights for Eddie Guerrero when he won the WWE Championship after beating Brock Lesnar at No Way Out. And this is such a quintessential Eddie Guerrero match and moment. This is what a lot of fans remember him by. And when I say quintessential, I mean both in the technical ability, but also this whole cheat, light, and steal gimmick that he had. So this came about actually back in January. So Eddie won a Battle Royal Rumble match on an episode of SmackDown a few weeks earlier to earn the opportunity to face the WWE champion, and then he came into a program with Brock Lesnar. And really, I mean, a huge upset. But when you think about it, the match was in California, and there was just a big Lucha Libre and Mexican population there that were just so excited for Eddie. And my favorite part actually was more toward the end of this match with the sequence with the referee being knocked out, Eddie getting a hold of the title, planning on using it, but then Brock got him, and then the title was still on the ground. Brock was gonna put the F5 on him. Eddie countered with the DDT. And even though the commentary played it up, it was on the title, which I know hypothetically was supposed to. It missed it completely. But still being able to, that balance, I think that was something about Eddie that always drew me to him, is that he was super talented in his work. And he didn't need to cheat. I mean, he did, and it was entertaining. But I think this match found that balance of showcasing his technical ability, but also his character and his personality. And so he could have won that match without the title, but the fact that he still did that and leveraged it was, classic Eddie Guerrero. And so, just the celebration afterward and, how excited he looked. And it was a big turning point for him and the company to beat, at that point, the youngest WWE champion of all time, the next big thing, and a fairly cleanish win over Brock Lesnar is huge. No one could take that away from him for the rest of his career. And he also went on to WrestleMania 20 in a program with Kurt Angle to retain the title too. So I mean, this was a huge boom period for Eddie Guerrero, and I think as fans, a real milestone that we all kind of remember, his WWE career for.
Yeah, it's still referenced to this day as well, and deservedly so. Just seeing it on the list for this week, I went back and watched it again, and it got a little dusty in my room. I'm just gonna say.
So and the full match is available on YouTube, so you can watch the whole thing. And the link is available on luchacentral.com. So that is this week in Lucha Libre history. Of course, you can find this day in Lucha Libre history at luchacentral.com. But Brendan, what else can our listeners find on luchacentral.com?
Well, you can find all kinds of stuff there. If you're listening to this and you haven't visited luchacentral.com, it's time to do it. Luchacentral.com is the online home for Lucha Libre, where you can get all of the top news in English and in Spanish. Find the best curated video content and original content not seen anywhere else. Find when Lucha Libre events would be happening in your area. Find photo galleries from top photographers covering Lucha Libre around the world. A place to have your voices heard, from weekly polls to annual awards, seen and read by top executives in all the major Lucha Libre promotions across the globe. And on top of all of this, it's free. I mean, come on, you can't beat free. LuchaCentral.com, your centralized place for all things Lucha Libre.
As Brendan alluded to, Dusty, you have some AAA news for us.
Yes, yeah. AAA had their first show, and I'm not going to try to pronounce that because I'm just going to butcher it. But they had their recording, and Lucha Central had the results. And in the first match, legends of Lucha Libre superstar Lady Maravilla and La Hydra defeated Lady Shani and Fabi Apache in a women's tag team match. The second match was also a tag team match, and featured Tejano Jr. and Abismo Negro Jr. defeating Legends of Lucha Libre superstar Laredo Kid and Octagon Jr. Then in the main event, we had Legends of Lucha Libre superstar and Masked Republic superstar Psycho Clown and El del Vikingo defeating Rey Escorpion and Chessman by disqualification in another tag team match. So I'm excited to see these. I love tag team wrestling. That's one of my favorite parts of wrestling. So I am really excited to see this. I'm actually really excited about the pairing of Psycho Clown and El del Vikingo. I mean, just as much as John Cena, Psycho Clown kind of gets a reputation for having about 5 moves. But lately, he's really stepped it up. I mean, like, Psycho Clown lately has been quite impressive. Ever since Triple Mania and Auto Luchas, he's really, gotten a second wind. So I'm excited to see this pairing, and I'm excited to see them against Rey Scorpio and Chessman. Like, just exciting. But also this weekend in AAA news, we had Laredo Kid defending the AAA Cruiserweight title again in Odessa, Texas. And so that's kind of interesting. And also, he was scheduled to face Daga, but instead of facing Daga in a Cruiserweight championship match, he wrestled Willie Mack, who is not a cruiserweight, but
no.
It had to be an
doesn't meet that weight limitation.
He moves like one.
He does move like one, pero tienen pesos, like he weighs a little bit.
Yeah, and like I say, he was X Division, so I mean that has to give you some credibility towards a cruiserweight title, right? Like he can use it as a precedent, maybe. I just want to see the match. I understand it's on Facebook, but I have not had the opportunity to see it yet as of recording time. I'm really looking forward to it. It sounds amazing. Mas Lucha also reported that Laredo Kid had the AAA title on TV this week, on the first TV of the new year. Nobody that I have spoken to has seen that, so I can't confirm that. But it's interesting because Laredo Kid lost to Leo Rush in what was a unification match. And the rumor was that Lucha Libre FMV was kind of, very litigious and very quick to get things taken down. And so they, kind of combined the titles for MLW purposes. But Laredo Kid's been carrying it around everywhere, and it came out that match had been taped in October. And so they held on to it for a few months, so he carried it all this time. So there's a possibility he won it back sometime, and we're just not up on air dates. But it's also a possibility that AAA just feels like nobody really cares about the AAA title as much as they care about the wrestler. That's kind of the case with the Mega Campeon Championship with Kenny Omega. It's not so much about the championship, it's that Kenny Omega has it and shows up to defend it. And so it's kind of interesting. What are your thoughts on this, Brendan?
Oh man! So first off, I'm gonna throw the shout out back out again. This was the Promociones 915-656 that was doing this. This was the match I was alluding to earlier, but it gets more interesting when you realize that was supposed to be a AAA road show, and then the lawsuit issues. They scrambled and rearranged it so it was more of an indie show that featured AAA wrestlers. So that makes me wonder if that had something to do with it too. Like if Laredo Kid with the belt was supposed to be a AAA thing, and maybe AAA is planning on having him have the belt, and we just don't know what's happened in the world of MLW pre-recorded matches. Or, there's so many variable factors, but I agree that no matter what, that AAA is more interested in Laredo Kid, the wrestler, being their product. So even if they have to make up a belt to put on him later, they're gonna just probably have him with some sort of belt.
Yeah.
And then that's usually enough to get the fans excited for him. So it's a little bit of the AAA thing, but I think it's also a lot of the lawsuit thing.
Interesting.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see what comes of AAA. Every week, I hope we have, I tell you, I hope we'll have more information next week, and again, I hope we'll have more information next week. Most of the shows that are airing in Mexico are not visible in the United States, but if you follow, a certain blog that covers lucha information, you might find a link or two to a YouTube that has them. And I don't want to say much more than that, catch him a copyright strike or anything, but it should be fairly easy to figure out. So check him out, check those links out, check the matches out. It's exciting. AAA has got such a unique concept right now with the Puebla de Mexico shows and the kind of, like just the special places they're going to, the landmarks, and hopefully we get to see them in a pyramid. That's one of my dreams, is to see them fight in front of a pyramid like something out of Mortal Kombat. So hopefully that's what I've got to report for you next week. But we'll see. Lots of exciting stuff happening for AAA.
We almost got to see a pyramid match on TV this week, but we'll getting to that.
We'll get to that in a second.
Yes.
This week in Impact Wrestling, talking about the X Division, we had the X Division Championship defended on the first match of this week's Impact Wrestling, and it was a really good match. I think a lot of people were very surprised. Champion TJP faced Josh Alexander. Josh Alexander won the Triple Threat Revolver match at No Surrender and earned a title opportunity for the X Division Championship. And again, this match started off more technical, I think, with both men trying to kind of figure each other out. But there was some great spots with Josh Alexander dodging a Mamba Splash, and he completely wiped TJP out with a crossbody. And then even a surprising moment with Josh Alexander, who went to the ropes and put a drop kick to TJP, which is kind of uncharacteristic for him. However, in the end, TJP was able to connect with the Mamba Splash for the win. And I think this was a great showcase for both men, but especially Josh Alexander. Now TJP has already seemed to run the gambit. I think his program with Rohit Raju is through. Chris Bay's kind of out of the picture for now. So I think maybe if they set something up for Josh Alexander more long term, this would be great. We also had a Fatal 4-Way match. So some of the competitors from the Triple Threat Revolver match were put together in a Fatal 4-Way. Trey Miguel, Suicide, Willie Mack, and Daivari. And of course, you had Willie Mack with that standing moonsault that he does so well. He put that to both Suicide and Trey Miguel. However, Trey Miguel won this match, and so they're really looking to elevate him now as a real top contender for the X Division title. So as much as I'd love to see a program with TJP and Josh Alexander, it does seem like they're going in the direction with Trey Miguel. We also had kind of a rare match of Hernandez versus Matt Cardona. Not very long match in and of itself. Matt Cardona hit Hernandez with a drop kick, and from there he did the big clothesline and his finishing maneuver, Radio Silence, for the win. So Hernandez continues to kind of be used as a means to an end in a lot of storylines, but it seems to be a good role for him at Impact. And then also, as Dusty mentioned earlier, that big news coming out of No Surrender, that we had Finn Juice come to Impact Wrestling from New Japan, and they faced Reno Scum, which we haven't seen in quite some time.
Yeah. So happy those guys are back.
Yeah, it's just a huge moment for Impact to have that New Japan presence, and it ties into AEW. So the wheels are turning there. But I highly recommend, especially the very first match, TJP versus Josh Alexander, a really, really solid match. And again, TJP has been great as X Division champion, but I think it showcases Josh Alexander in a great way that we haven't seen him in singles action in really ever. So solid addition of Impact. Not a huge Lucha Libre presence and content this week, but we know that changes every week. Up next, so speaking of New Japan, Dusty, you have some news coming out of New Japan.
Yeah, we do. Like, first up, they had the announcement that there will be a New Beginning USA show on Friday, February the 19th. That's hopefully the night of you're hearing this podcast. And they announced that ELP versus Lio Rush, the rematch, will happen this Friday at the show, and the winner will be the number one contender for an IWGP Junior Heavyweight title match in Japan. And so we had kind of mentioned that possibility with Lio Rush and mentioned, that this was one of the rematches I really wanted to see with Lio Rush. So this is quite exciting for Friday's New Beginning show. And then in other relevant lucha action on Friday's show, we will have Rocky Romero, Adrian Quest, and Mysterioso going up against Rey Horus, Barrett Brown, and the DKC in trios action. So there'll be a couple of really exciting lucha matches Friday night, some West Coast wrestling. I am really looking forward to New Beginning USA. That's Friday night at, I believe, 10 p.m. Eastern, 9 p.m. Central. So, yeah, exciting. I hope everybody checks it out, and the more lucha content gets supported on New Japan World, the more they're going to present it to us.
Heck
so
yeah.
Let's encourage that, and hopefully everybody checks it out this week.
I hope to.
Yeah, it's going to be good.
In our final story, MLW this week presented Tom Lawler's Filthy Island. And this had, I have to say I was surprised with the amount of lucha content this week. I think presented as Tom Lawler's Filthy Island. For those of you who aren't aware, this was filmed in quote unquote Hawaii, and the ring itself was much more of like a blood sport type of ring with no ropes. And so that really added to what we'll talk about in a second with some of the matches on tonight, or that was on the show this past week. That made it very interesting to watch. But yes, Tom Lawler's Filthy Island was everything and nothing that you expected it to be. First match up, as far as Lucha Libre content, is Kevin Ku, who was accompanied by Dominic Guarini, versus Senshi. And first off, the entrances, backyard show could not do this justice.
They're classier. The backyard shows I've been to have been classier than what I saw in Filthy Island.
Yeah. However, a very interesting. So Kevin Ku came out and made his entrance, and then we were waiting for Senshi and wondering, where is he? Well, he was actually on top of a tree that was already hanging down from the ring. So he jumped from a tree above, and that really set the tone from the beginning of the match. I think Senshi really relied on the element of surprise and really picked up on very fast-paced movements to try and kind of throw Kevin Ku off, because again, Kevin is more that MMA background, with Senshi's more lucha libre, so he had to really rely on his speed in order to not get caught up in any of Kevin's movements. And so now, again, an interesting thing with this too is that there were no ropes. So Senshi couldn't go to the ropes and use that momentum. So there was a beautiful moment where he lifted himself on the ring post and to kind of elevate himself and to catch himself. Because usually with the ropes, you can use that to kind of catch yourself and use those movements to then set up what you're going to do next. So he used the ring post to kind of create some momentum. Some great enziguri kicks by Senshi. And he had two. There was some close calls. This was actually, I felt like, one of the more competitive matches of the entire night. However, Kevin used I think it was a Snapdragon suplex. He used two of them, actually. And the second one was the one that landed hard, and he was able to cover Senshi for the pinfall. But I think commentary really played up the element of surprise with Senshi and how well he performed in this match. And I really liked this match this was kind of one of my favorite matches from him. And that kind of surprised me because this whole event is a little bit more gimmicky and silly, but I think he utilized the fact that, he had to be very creative in this match, and it really showcased, I think, how talented he is. And I think it was more of a way too to be very competitive with someone, like Kevin. So, I was happily surprised with this, even though Senshi didn't get the win. Probably, if not the most entertaining match on this entire week's episode.
Yeah, it was a very fun match.
Yeah, very fun match. Up next, we started to see a bit of the Azteca Jungle Fight match versus Mil Muertes and Savio Vega. Commentary played up that they were in the middle of the Mexican jungle, where the Aztecs of the Mayan temples were. And the beginning of the match, you had Savio Vega get in Selena De La Renta's face, going through that storyline about Promociones Dorado wanting to buy IWA, the promotion that Savio Vega owns, and he's saying, no, it is not for sale. And Selena saying, that is not a request. I wasn't asking. This is what Promociones Dorado does. But Mil Muertes being able to get the sneak attack in, and then they really just started to brawl in and out through the entire match. It was really more of a brawl, not really a match at all. And they cut in and out of this match throughout the show, where you saw bits of it, then they left and came back. But I'm going to go through the whole match while we're here. And they were using vines. At one point, Mil Muertes uses a vine and wrapped it around Savio Vega's neck to choke him. Savio Vega, though, had a pretty hard headbutt to break up that choke. And then eventually, somehow, a crowbar gets into their possession. And Mil Muertes uses that and bashes him on the head with it, knocking Savio Vega out. He does get the pin. But shortly after that, we see Mil Muertes digging. He gets a shovel and starts to dig. And so, something that MLW alluded to earlier this year when we were supposed to see Conan on is that Selena took care of him, quote unquote. And so, alluding to they made Conan disappear. Maybe this is going to be something very similar with Savio Vega, that Savio is going to disappear for quite some time due to the actions of Mil Muertes. So, not really a match, not even really cinematic, if you want to call it that. It was more of a segment to help drive the Promociones Dorado storyline.
Yes. Yeah, the most cinematic moment was when we got to see the rain pouring down off of the ziggurat there. That was, which was a very cool shot. Got me very excited. But, I do want to add on to this, since this is the part where we're talking about Promociones Dorado and Azteca Underground. Azteca Underground has a website now and a social media presence. And they are currently advertising that there are opportunities for believers. So they are very much leaning into a certain vibe from a very popular show, but also they're pretending like people are going to get hired. So we could see a lot more from them in the near future, and I'm very excited for this.
Yes, I mean, it's pretty rampant, the correlation that people are kind of trying to connect the dots with Promociones Dorado and Azteca Underground. You already have Mil Muertes involved. There's just lots of little hints and tidbits. And maybe they're doing that on purpose, knowing that there's going to be a swerve, but capturing that attention from Lucha Underground fans. Or maybe there is somewhat of a tie-in.
I can't see it being a full tie-in, but I definitely feel that they know what they're doing. If you look at who the promotion is following on Twitter, it is all Lucha Underground people. So, it's, they're dropping some big hints here and there, and I really wanted to kind of highlight that, to build up the hype a little bit.
We also had a fun match between Rocky Romero making his return to MLW versus Gringo Loco. And this one was more of a slower pace starting off with, but it really got a little crazy. Rocky Romero did a senton bomb to Gringo Loco to one of the side couches. He also started to yell his moves were for his dog. So it just got a little stupid. But like for me, I love stupid, so I'm fine with this. Some fans are like, this is too stupid for me. Completely understand. But I thought it was a really good blend of actual wrestling with, some kind of, some funnier elements on there. And, Rocky Romero using that ring post, to do a tornado DDT. For the win. So again, there was some creativity that they had to do with not having any ropes, for Filthy Island matches. And I thought that kind of added, to the creativity and the dynamic to these matches. As far as other MLW news, in 2 weeks, March 3rd, Fusion will return. Next week, they're actually going to be airing in an episode of MLW Underground. So I don't believe we'll be getting a new episode of Fusion, but they will be airing a new episode of MLW Underground. So make sure you check that out. On March 3rd, Fusion comes back with Los Parks defending the MLW Tag Team Championships against Simon Gotch and Davari of Contra Unit. We will also have MLW presenting Never Say Never for free on March 31st. So a free event that they'll be airing online on March 31st. And so that's it for this week's Lucha Central Weekly podcast. We just wrapped everything up for you in a nice little neat package. So make sure that you go to luchacentral.com, your centralized place for all things Lucha Libre, and also check out Lucha Central on social media, at Lucha Central on Facebook and Instagram, and at LuchaCentralCom on Twitter. As we mentioned, the YouTube page has a wealth of videos there for you, interviews and matches that you can see. It's a great source of content, and we highly recommend you check out the YouTube page. While you're at it, why don't you go follow us on social media? Dusty, where can our listeners find you?
I am on Instagram at Dusty Murphy, and I am on Facebook at facebook.com/Dusty Murphy.
And Brendan, where can our listeners find you?
I am 321 T-shirt guy, so it's the numbers 321, and then T-shirt guy is all spelled out. I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram, and I'm all over the Twitters.
And me, Miranda Morales, you can find me at the #Miranda on Instagram and Facebook, # spelled out. Also, while you're doing that, go ahead and subscribe, rate, and review if you are listening to us on, say, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Apple Radio, Podbay, Speaker, any of those streaming systems. Go ahead and subscribe so that way you get notifications every time a new episode of the Lucha Central Weekly podcast gets launched. You can give us a 5-star rating and give us a review. Let us know your thoughts. Let us know any ideas you have for future topics, things that you liked, things you haven't liked, any of that. And especially, again, if you are a Lucha Libre promotion, make sure you reach out to Brendan on social media, and you may get your match or promotion featured on a future edition of the Indie Roundup. For Brendan Barr and for Dusty Murphy, I'm Miranda Morales. Thank you all so much, and we will be back next week.